Hello and welcome to my tutorial. We're going to have a day in my journal book today, and I'm casually ripping out some magazine pieces just to give the book some strength and some colour and texture. So I'm using matte finish to stick the pieces down. I have already stuck on the left side 3 pages of the existing journal together. So I've got quite a sturdy page to start with, and now I'm obviously adding the layer of magazine. On the right side there are only 2 pages stuck together. You will see why as we move through the tutorial. And I have stuck behind that page another 2 pages together as well. So I'm going to cover all of those with the magazine strips. It gives it all much more strength when I'm working, and stops the pages from feeling fragile. So there we go. It dries quite quickly, and now I'm going in with another layer, and every layer that we give gives some depth to the piece, some textures and also some strength. So this is gesso, and I'm putting 1 coat on. It neutralizes quite well. This is now the 2nd coat, and while it's still wet I'm going to create some texture by sticking the 2 sides of the book together, giving it a jiggle and peeling apart, and that gives you lovely texture. These are Tim Holtz figures, and I have chosen one to represent each member of our family, and I'm drawing a square around them, and I'm going to cut out that square using a craft knife, and I've put a board behind to stop me cutting through everything. Now the second lot of 2 pages is going to make more sense, because now I will stick those 2 lots of 2 pages together, which will make them much stronger. But I wanted a frame to be able to put my Tim Holtz family in. This is going to be a Punch and Judy show box, hence the flap and the frame. Just adding a bit more gesso to cover up the writing, and I've pinned the sides just to keep it all in place while it's drying. So I'm now going to sketch out Mr. Punch on the other page using a HB pencil, just a soft pencil to loosely sketch out, get his positioning right. This whole piece is based on the idea that the world is our stage, and that we human beings are merely actors acting out our roles. And I thought it would be really fun to do it in a Punch and Judy box and have Punch outside of the box rather than inside, with my family inside the box. So that's where the idea came from. I'm being quite loose with my sketching. I'm just sort of trying to get the proportions right at this point before I go in with some colour. I'm going to be using a fab product, Jane Davenport Distress Crayons. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're called, but they are very cool, and they are quite oily in their substance, but they can be used either to be blended using your finger, or you can add water to them to turn them into paint. So here you see me just scribbling on crayon. I obviously haven't got the detail of a pointed pencil, paintbrush or pen. These are like crayons, so I'm just roughly adding in the right areas little elements of the colour that I want. I could do this with paint or with pencil, etc., but these are fun, and these actually, once added to water, are quite vibrant in their colours. So there I'm adding some water, and obviously the yellow is the lighter of the colours, so I'm trying to go over the yellow first, then the green, then the red, because they will bleed otherwise into each other. But again, I'm just trying to give the gist, the sketchiness of the shapes that I want, because I'm going to tidy it all up once this is done using a black marker. I haven't put too much red on his hat, which I could have put more on, but it's going to end up leaving it quite unevenly filled out, but that's fine because again, it kind of gives me a natural shading. And it will make more sense once I start in with the liners. I've got kind of skin colour crayon going on here, but I do find this particular colour a little bit orangey, a little bit bright. So after this little section has been recorded, I've gone in with a paler acrylic skin colour just to tone it down slightly. And I'm just finally adding a little bit of grey for the background and some hair. Here we go. Starting to look like punch. So just to add a little bit more detail before we get to the pen, I've gone in with a paintbrush and some Fairy Chic chalk paint. I'm adding some brown, and some green. I want some tone in there just to sort of emphasise some of the shadow movement, and it will help out with the face too, because obviously I'm going to be adding some black, but you don't want black everywhere. The brown is the next step down. Trying to emphasise his teeth at this point. He's not the best looking character, but he's fairly familiar and recognisable, I feel. So here we go. This is a Jane Davenport black pen, and it's a really cool juicy pen that gives really good rich black colour and doesn't seem to have a problem going over the oil pastels, which some of the pens that I've got do. And so I'm very loosely sketching around the outline and giving it a real sketchy feel. I want it to look like a caricature really. I'm using the black to emphasise the stripes. I also use the black to give the piece some shadows just by doing some lines. It's the fun stage really where you get to doodle. I've got a white Posca pen here, just filling in a few highlights. And then we're just about done. So back over to Punch and Judy's stand, filling in the hole with some blue paint and a second coat to darken it up. Why not? And then on the flap I'm drawing out some stripy lines because this is going to be my Punch and Judy booth, and obviously filling it in with the same blue. I'm also going to go ahead and do the same stripes underneath the flap so that it matches when the flap is up. So here's my Tim Holtz faux family that I'm sticking into the box. I'm adding some tacky glue around the sides and sticking on some sweet wrapper blue paper, and I have cut out from a bit of cardstock the heading border whatever of the booth and just sticking it down. And I've got two red sweet wrappers too, just to fill in the gap. How cool is that? So I'm going back on in with my black marker again just to emphasise the stripes. I also go around with the black marker all the way around the edge of the booth's entirety, and I'm going to write closed on the flap. I go in later and write on the same flap next show at 2 p.m. and I'm punching 2 holes so that we can tie the flap up. I'm attaching a bit of blue ribbon to the flap and a bit of red ribbon to the page, just so that the colours all tie in. And then they can be tied together. How cool is that? So the last thing to do is fill in the background, and I've gone back in with the Jane Davenport dark blue, and as you can see, very sketchily just loosely put some colour in, and I'm now filling it in with water. I felt it just needed the bright pop out to go with the whole theme really. And when this is dry, I'm going to go in all the way around the edge with a StazOn ink pad to age up the edges and give it a frame, and you'll be able to see pictures of how that's come out at the end of this video. It really adds to it, I feel. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll have a go at something fun and wacky. And until the next time, take care.